So the most important thing that parents can do with their learners at school is every Sunday or early Monday morning, ask your learner, what are your goals for this week? And then every Friday, follow up and say, how did it go? And we encourage you to get into the details as much as you can, as much as you have time for. What percentage in this e-learning platform, for example, are you hoping to accomplish? Or how many units, or how many lessons, or how many words are you going to read? What percentage of your book are you going to read? And we invite families to do this every single week. This is the best way to stay on top of and aware of your learners' progress and the kind of goals that they're setting, whether they're meeting or exceeding those goals. But most importantly, we think that there is a relationship approach to self-directed learning that's most helpful. So there's a theory, it's kind of old school, but it's really powerful. And it says that around every young person, there's multiple different environments. You've got the home, you've got the school, you've got the neighborhood, and you've got a social institution like a church or a mosque or a synagogue or a sports team or whatever it is they're deeply connected to. And if those four environments around that learner, if they're aligned on their expectations for learners, then their development will accelerate and they will learn. But if there's a disconnect between those environments, between home and school, between school and the social institution, or home and the neighborhood, then it's actually going to slow development. And so when you as parents ask your learners what their goals are, that's what we're asking them at school. And so their development will actually accelerate. And that's crucial. And I have found, unfortunately, many times their parents, for reasons of forgetfulness or for lack of time, I have not done that and have not asked those parents those questions. And inevitably what happens is parents have an aha moment. They're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And they have to do some backtracking. And sometimes it produces some anxiety. But those parents who are asking on a weekly basis what's happening, they're in tune, they're aware, and honestly, the learners are better off because they feel that accountability, they feel that love and support. Even if you as parents don't have time to do it, I would recommend that you find a mentor, a tutor, a coach, another family member, a sibling who would ask them those questions every single week. That's probably the most important thing of all the things. It's probably the most important thing you could do as a parent of a learner at the four schools. So for learners who may push back when you ask them those questions, especially if they're just beginning the learning environment, I would say give grace, and trust the process, but keep asking the question. Just the power of the question. Even if you don't judge their answer, eventually what's going to happen is they're going to grow attuned to the fact that, they care about my goals. The school and the guides and the school leaders, they care about my goals. My parents care about my goals for myself. So this is actually about my own development. Now, it may take a while for them to get to that place, but early on, just ask and ask with grace, but keep asking, what are your goals? How did it go? So this last component of weekly goal setting is about incentives and natural consequences at home. And this is always an interesting conversation and exercise with parents because parents handle this very differently. So when you discover as a parent or caregiver that your learner met their goals, how you respond, that's a great moment to give what we call growth mindset praise, which is less about achieving something and it's more about the learning that occurred or them making it through something hard or them finishing a process and helping them recognize the growth that they encountered. Maybe as a parent or caregiver, you might decide, I want to attach a prize to that, a reward, an ice cream, some extra screen time, or a sleepover with a friend or something like that. And some parents do that. Other parents are like, no, this is just what it means to be a part of our house. If they don't meet their goals, do you give them a natural consequence or not? This too is a conversation and a question that parents differ on and how they, and I have 4 children and I've actually found that the mixture of incentives and natural consequences that I design for my own children, it varies based on who they are, what actually gets them motivated. And so as an example, I have one learner who, basically the understanding was if they met their goals, then they were going to have access to friends and screen time. And that was very motivating for them, and they regularly got their goals done. I have another learner that was not motivating at all. And so he, as a result, got friends taken away. He got screens taken away. And eventually it sort of killed his spirit, to be honest with you. And I noticed that, and I was like, this is not the goal. This is not what I want to see happening. And so I was just wondering, I was trying to get creative about what might be a good natural consequence. And finally, I got to a place where, and I spoke with his mom, we said, you know what, if you're that far behind, then what that means is you're just going to be in this grade in elementary studio for another year. Is that what you want to do? And he was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. And we are like, that was a real challenge, honestly, for me as a parent. That didn't meet my expectations for what I thought he was capable of or what he would want to do. But I was like, you know what, I'm going to trust the process. And so I did, and he got into elementary school again the next year. And he kind of looked around in the first month, and he was like, oh, none of my friends are here. And I don't like this. I'm too old for this. And he finished fifth grade in a month and a half. And sure enough, he moved on to the middle school studio. And that was the natural consequence, that motivated him. And so what I would invite you to do as families is to brainstorm with us, your guides and school leaders, about what are some possible incentives and natural consequences as they meet, exceed, or fall short of their goals, and to try them out. And to be attuned to their spirit and kind of how they're responding to that, but to continually search for what actually motivates them. It's an art, not a science, but it's worth it. It's worth the journey.